Today on Rates and Barrels, we wonder if the Mets have enough time before the trade deadline to avoid becoming sellers.
And we wonder, can we fix the Diamondbacks rotation?
Plus, we take a closer look at left on base percentage. How much does a team's defense actually play into that number? Welcome to Rates and Barrels. It's Thursday, June 25th. Derek Van Riper, Eno Saris, and Trevor May here with you. Trevor, how's it going for you on this Thursday?
It's going great. Got to get to do a last day of work here before I go down to fly down to LAX for a black tie wedding, which I had to buy a tux for this thing. Better be great.
How hard are you throwing right now, by the way?
Low 90s. I got up to 94 the other day.
Nice. All right. You know, you going to a World Cup game again tonight?
Yeah, baby. Australia against Paraguay. And I think it's kind of meaningful, so I'm hoping that they won't just sort of hold the ball for 90 minutes.
Yeah, I think the third game in the group stage can be a little bit of a letdown depending on the circumstances for the teams involved. Australia, Panama, it feels like that's going to be a good hang in terms of the crowd.
Yeah, they both have 3 points, and if the winner is the second place team, that it definitely goes through, and the loser becomes part of the third place scrum. So they could just decide a 0-0 tie is fine, but I think they have something to play for.
All right, we're looking forward to watching that. I'm sure that's the late game, if I had to guess, on Thursday night.
It's not the 9 o'clock game. We're not doing that again. It's a 7 o'clock game. Thank God.
I might actually get to see the end of that one then. So I was watching some of the clips on Recap Rundown today, and I have to give a lot of credit to both the Red Sox broadcast booth, the Nesson crew, and the SNY crew. The SNY crew always gets a lot of love, but they have really hit the appropriate tone, I think, based on how the first half of the season has gone for both of those teams. I mean, it was a disastrous series for the Red Sox in Colorado, and then the Mets pulled the classic hold my beer, watch us just tank a doubleheader and make 6 errors in the nightcap sort of game. And it felt like the kind of game to me, Trevor, that second game for the Mets that they lost felt like the sort of game where you have that moment where you wake up Thursday if you're David Stearns and you say, it's just not going to happen this year. Like, we have bigger problems than we anticipated going into the season. And for reasons that maybe are not all crystal clear, it's just not happening. They're 9 games out of the last wild card in the NL. They've lost 5 in a row. This is after just getting Francisco Lindor back. What do you think about this Mets team? Like, why has it been such an epic disaster relative to some pretty lofty expectations on the projection side?
This is a question I constantly am asking. I asked the whole time I was there. I asked before I went there, and now I've been asking since I was there. And it's one of those things like, yeah, things take time. You have to be patient. It's hard to tell that fan base to be patient, right? Like, you got to your player development has to catch up with your ability to trade and then pay free agents as well. You need all of them. Like, the Dodgers got to have all of them. You need all of them. And the player development is good. They have lots of high level prospects. It's just not coalescing into anything that's helping the big league team. And then they get hurt. We just keep losing guys, and it's just like a stagnant guys falling off the wagon, almost like dominoes, like never at the same time. All just like one guy comes back, another guy's gone, and it's been like that for years and years and years. So like, there's all these little symptoms, but I think at the end of the day, I think that the team's literally just haunted. I just think maybe there's a ghost, and I like there's this feeling when things are going great, like you feel like you are.
LOL, Mets.
Yeah, there's when you're going well, you feel like you're on top of the world. But the switch, I'd never felt like a switch flip, like even from pitch to pitch, like I did there. And it was like this, like you walk into a room, you're like, something's wrong, like that kind of feeling. And I hope that any Mets fans listening are like, yes, that's it. He's right. I was scrolling like we all do at night, and I finally got some Mets content for some fans that they don't have lots of followers, but like just losing their minds. Like Mets fans, Mets stuff, everyone, guys just like scream, like, how is this possible? 6 errors. I'm like, 6 errors. Like that's crazy. And then I got another guy like a three scrolls later, and then I realized, these guys in 2021, I was the target of this. This is what's going on in those houses. And then I get it. Like I've been there and I've lost my mind. So like take that and get a point at somewhere. So as in terms of an explanation, on paper there should be a great team. There's just something about this malaise that is so hard to get off, like get from out from under there. It's once it's on you, this blanket of like things are not working out. I feel like maybe more so than anywhere else, turning it around is it might be it's like being in quicksand. It might be the hardest place of all 30 teams to turn things around. And I would say a close second is probably the Red Sox, and then probably the third is the Phillies. Like those 3 places, if you start weak or start slow, getting that momentum going in the other direction in the same season is tough. But I also feel like the opposite is true. If you're going, kind of hard to lose that momentum too. It's just very sticky there in a way that is just unlike anywhere I've ever played, frankly.
It's the here we go again. And it's a big market. Here we go again. You know, maybe in a smaller market, you can just sort of ignore the voices a little bit easier as a player. You don't have as many media coming up to you and being like, 6 errors yesterday, huh? You know, like if you're Marcus Semien, you don't have to talk to 4 different reporters about the error, you know? So, you know, that's, I think, part of it. I wonder if the park has something weird going on with it. I was just looking, and this year they are the least lucky team in terms of what their quality of content, their expected WOBA versus what their actual WOBA is. They're the least lucky team. But then I said, well, let me look back. Well, they were 3rd least lucky last year. They were 11th least lucky the year before. They were 6th least lucky the year before that. So there seems to be something where like they are constantly least lucky. I wonder if there's some sort of park factor that's not capturing this. Now, it's if you do a straight correlation between park factor and xWOBA differential, whatever, I don't think you'll come up with it because I see San Francisco is all over the place. Lucky, least lucky, lucky, least lucky. St. Louis is at the top and the bottom, but New York, the Mets are consistently least lucky. So maybe it's a wind park factor, or, you know, we know that the wind does weird things there. I don't know. Something seems a little bit weird about the park. And so I want to put that out there. When we did the injury, you know, when Trevor talks about everyone getting injured, like when we did the injury thing, it was the Mets, Yankees, and Orioles. And it was the craziest part about it was the Mets, Yankees, and Orioles. If you went back to 2012, they're the most injured teams since 2012. Also since 2024 and 2023, like they're the most injured teams. So like, I'm sure there've been regimes that be like, okay, we're going to get on top of this. We are going to hire the best doctor. Like they're in New York, right? Like we're going to hire the best doctors. We're going to revamp all of our training documents. We're going to get the best trainers. I'm sure they've done that like 3 times because, you know, you keep having this problem. You keep trying to do something about it. So what is it? It's like the substation rumors with the 49ers. It's like, is there something in the water? Like what? Why do you keep getting injured and why do you keep being unlucky on the when it comes to hitting?
If it's in the water, maybe it's the same thing that makes the pizza and the bagels so good.
Ooh, maybe it's the pizza and the bagels.
Maybe it's the pizza. Maybe it's the nightlife.
In terms of like traveling, getting around, quality of, you know, like everything takes longer. There's maybe a little bit of a higher level of stress generally. I mean, just in terms of like getting to the park, not getting to the park, like getting your family somewhere, like subway, like it's not just easy to drive places, not just easy to do anything. It's just a city that is unlike any other city in this country in that way.
Yeah.
Like you just can't drive around, right?
I guess,
so
yeah. If you think about it, like most major league players don't come from there. So it's the kind of place where if it's your home, if it's where you grew up, you're
Culture
comfortable in that environment. If you get dropped in there, if you've been there on vacation, you've been there for work, you realize it's an intense place. Like there's an energy when you walk around in New York that's just different compared to many places, most places, all places probably in this country, at least the places I've been to. So yeah, like to absorb that day to day when you're not used to that. I mean, maybe there's never an easy adjustment to that. There are a lot of places around the league that have different, let's call them quirks, I guess, or traits that make them unique places to be. Denver, of course, has it. Are there other places that you think would have something as extreme as that, that New York intensity and energy?
Well, not necessarily the energy intensity, but San Francisco's park, like the extreme parks, I think, are a little bit like this, where it's like the stress of being like, imagine the stress of being like a young Bryce Eldridge debuting in San Francisco and like hitting a 400-foot fly ball out. It's just like, God, dang. So I think extreme parks can add a stress level like that to it. And I wonder if, Mets kind of have both, like an extreme park that makes it a little bit difficult to break in as a young hitter, and then, maybe a stressful situation. It's a stressful situation, not only city-wise, but like I pointed out, media, it's a big market. And then, you have these issues where like, it's a little bit like, the Yankees and Dodgers, to appraise their player development process is a little bit hard because they have like Juan Soto's and Francisco Lindor's in the lineup. So you have to be really, really good to make it into the starting lineup, right? Now they're giving some chances, and I think Ewing, Benj, Beatty, they all look like pretty good players. I don't know if they're like stars, but like I think each one of them looks like at least a major league average, maybe 2-3 win player type situation. I think all three of them. And if you look at how, when they've been on the field, Christian Scott has performed, Nolan McLean, you have to say that there's something good going on in the pitching. But then there's that injury. There's, I think there were some questionable decisions in the bullpen. I think that the Nimmo Simeon trade was a bad one. I think the Polanco signing was pretty obviously a bad one. Like here's an oft-injured guy. You're going to give him multiple years off of a career year to play a new position. Like that was just a really weird signing. So I think there's some cell phones here. There are some good things. It's hard to see the good things when they're in the middle of a bad season like that, but I think there are some good things bubbling up. And I think that some of the cell phones were like trying to clean up some of the balance sheets for these young guys to come in and to have more quote unquote flexibility to do the right thing later on. So, if I'm trying to be as charitable as possible, like maybe this was always going to be a transition year as they tried to clean things up so that they can get the guys they really want later. I don't know.
I think that's been the ongoing struggle, though, for the Steve Cohen era, is that it wasn't supposed to have these kinds of years in it, right? With those resources, with David Stearns at the helm in the front office, that between the money you could spend on the big league payroll and the process of improving player development along the way, that you'd get there faster than this. And maybe there are no shortcuts, even with just ridiculous amounts of money to spend on everything. I mean, the Mets are fourth in terms of wins above replacement missed on the Baseball Prospectus injury ledger that we talk about all the time. The Astros, the Jays, and the Dodgers are the only three teams that have lost more.
That'll
wins.
happen if you build in free agency, right?
Right. All of those teams skew a bit older, and with the exception of the Astros, they don't build as much in free agency as the other three. The other three were all aggressive, adding players, and that's going to happen. Like when you go that older sort of route, and I think people are going to be frustrated with the likes of Vientos. Beatty took a step back from last year, or at least has so far. You mentioned Simeon not playing well. I think he's been worse than expected at the plate, even though we saw some signs of decline and finally some physical breakdown a year ago. Bo Bichette's still below average for the season. I think he's been better recently compared to how he started the year, but he's still trying to push his way back closer to his norms. It's been kind of a mixed bag. I think they get some credit for Francisco Alvarez. I stand by him as a good big league catcher. He's been their second best hitter by WRC+. He's also dealt with a ton of injuries. Talk about a guy that's had IL stint after IL stint throughout his big league career. Alvarez is absolutely one of those players. So I just get tricked by them all the time because on paper, by projection, it's a lot of players you believe in as average or better, and several of them playing just a notch below that so far. They did trade David Peterson on Wednesday after the doubleheader. The Cubs, on the other end of that trade, just need starters in a desperate sort of way. So maybe a reset for Peterson makes him kind of effective here in the near term in Chicago. But, what do you think the Mets rotation looks like? And given that we've got about 5 to 6 weeks before the trade deadline, I think we're 5.5 weeks out right now, is there a world in which the Mets can catch some lightning in a bottle, maybe do it through pitching exceeding expectations, getting a few veterans back on track? Can they close the gap to the point where they don't have to put themselves in that sellers category at the deadline?
A lot of the guys ahead of them in the wild card race for the third wild card are, teams that you think they could maybe pass. Right now they'd have to pass the Pirates, the Reds, the Cardinals. There's some teams there that you think that you could pass. Now, you have to do that, and it has to be the Padres as well. So it's a lot of teams. It's a large number of teams, which makes it harder because any one of those teams could actually get hot themselves. And then it's a fairly big number of games back, but I think it's all about June and July, and it's a fairly obvious thing to say, but they have Peralta, and I think they'll keep Peralta until right at the deadline. So they basically have 5 weeks to try and rattle off somewhere in there an 8-2 stretch, see if that's good enough to get them back into the wild card race and keep Peralta. Otherwise, they'll sell Peralta, and I don't know what other pieces they'll sell, but that's the big one that they could sell. Until then, I don't think that trading away Peterson is that big a deal. I don't think it means that they're folding they're folding their cards right now, because it's Peralta, McLean, Minaya, Christian Scott's coming right off the IL and going in there, and I think that they'll probably just try Tobias Myers in the 5th spot. Maybe they move Senga to the bullpen like we suggested they should. So good job us, but Senga and Myers might end up being a sort of piggyback. That's 2 guys for 1 spot that might get the most out of both those guys until Clay Holmes comes back. So that's not a terrible rotation. I would say that's above average if I had to guess, where I put that rotation without looking at anything. So that rotation's fine. The bullpen's gotten to a place that's okay. I think it's kind of on the lineup to start putting it together some good numbers. Now at least they got Lindor back, so it's not a crazy, like, without looking, I would say their playoff odds are still above 20%.
They are not.
Oh,
7% chance of making the playoffs according to
there's a chance.
Yeah, that's where they're sitting right now. But again, you can do pretty good work on that between now and August 3rd. The schedule's not doing them any favors. So they wrap up a 4-game series with the Cubs on Thursday night. It is Juan Soto baseball card bobblehead night, so Mets fans have that to look forward to. They catch the Phillies for 3 at home. They're on the road to start next week against the Jays. That road trip continues in Atlanta for a 4-game series that wraps into the following Monday. They return home for the Royals and Red Sox. So that's the 6-game stretch right before the break. Got to win both of those series, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to, you got to sweep one of them, and you have to win the other one, I think.
And they have to do some surprise. There has to be some surprise sweep of a really good team in there somewhere. There has to be some 2-1s. Yeah, it's just win every series mentality at this point for the short term. And then, if the trade deadline comes and they're under 5%, I think they trade Peralta. They call up Tong. They try to get some. I would say, what would you? I would target probably pitching, because you can never have enough pitching. So I'd target pitching in the trades. Maybe even trade for a standout reliever if I thought I could add to the bullpen for 3-4 years. So I think that's what I would target in trades. And then you're just playing Ewing, Benj, Beatty, and Vientos every day until the end of the season to see who's a starter for you next year.
Feel like some of that, Beatty and Vientos, we've had this conversation about them before. I think Benj and Ewing are key pieces for the long haul. I think both of those guys look pretty good. Trevor, coming out of the break, they're at Philly for 3, at Milwaukee for 3. Then they return home. Oh, the Dodgers come to town, and they get the Braves and the Marlins. So I mean,
There's like
nowhere to
two
go but up.
cheapies in that whole schedule, dude.
Yeah, not much for relief on the schedule side. But hey, if you want to prove that you will actually be a playoff team and that you can rally and be the team people thought you were going into the season, guess what? The schedule has afforded you an opportunity. The universe is smiling upon you.
At least Bichette's looking better. Lindor's back. I mean,
Soto is quietly having a great year again.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Like, it's hilarious that now, for some reason, the highest paid guy in the league is somehow being not noticed very much. Since he's been there, he is 100% earning the contract and making the money to the level, at least that those kind of numbers call for. Unfortunately, I don't think you can really get more than that, but it's pretty impressive. Yeah, they can rattle it off. I think they could, but it's just like, you got to do it all at the same time. And are they going to get good pitching and good hitting at the same time? That's just been the thing that just simply isn't happening, because we know on paper how good they are. Like, that's not the issue. Can we do it when we need to do it?
And still have some prospects on the pitching side of Double-A and above, right? Jack Winninger, Jonah Tong, who Eno mentioned earlier, Jonathan Santucci, guys that probably aren't that far away from contributing in some fashion in the big league. So they could have some help on the way, but maybe more 2027 for most of that group, with the exception of Tong. So yeah, curious to see what the next 5 weeks brings for this team. It will have plenty of difficult matchups. And I think, Trevor, the reason we don't talk about Juan Soto, I don't know if you got this email yet from the media bosses, but we're not allowed to talk about great players when they play well. We're only allowed to talk about them when they underperform and are destroying their entire franchise with their contract. I guess that's the rule.
I can do that. No, yeah, you mean, hey, bad stuff is good for the internet. Bad stuff is good for attention, and that is the industry we're in, guys.
Going to script. I'm going to stick with your original explanation. I think the franchise, I think it's a ghost or something.
It's a ghost
haunting them.
Not a curse. Curses are boring. That was Babe Ruth and stuff. We don't need that. Like, we don't need, the Red Sox did that. We don't care about that. There's an actual poltergeist in Citi Field.
It's the best explanation I've heard so far. We're going to hit a quick break. When we come back, we're going to break down the Arizona Diamondbacks pitching staff. There have been some pretty underwhelming performances with that group, and we're going to try and figure out why. Welcome back to Rates and Barrels. There's something I forgot about with the Diamondbacks. I forgot that Brent Strom was fired at the end of the 2024 season. And that might be a big deal because things were a little better with their pitching when they had Brent Strom. Currently, the Diamondbacks are 27th in strikeout minus walk rate as a pitching staff, 10.5%. Only the Royals, Rockies, and Reds have been worse so far this year. I got to give our friend Dominic Cotroneo credit for reminding me about the Strom thing. I didn't even know who the Diamondbacks pitching coach was that replaced Brent Strom and has been there for these last 2 seasons. Did you guys know who the Diamondbacks pitching coach was before we prepped for this episode?
Did not.
No, I thought Strom was still there too.
Right. I assumed, oh yeah, they still got Strom, right? It's like, clearly I need to watch more Diamondbacks games. Number one, like that's the first lesson. Brian Kaplan was hired to replace Brent Strom after they fired Strom. I don't think that this is a Brian Kaplan's bad sort of thing. Like, I'm more just kind of like, why isn't the pitching working out? Like Brandon Pfaadt, like he was looking like maybe he was going to take the next step coming off of the 2024 season. It wasn't perfect, but it looked like a young starter that they had drafted and developed who'd be a fixture in the rotation for a few years. That at least seemed possible. Zach Gallen, I said something to the effect of, I'm stunned he's aged like this, because I thought he was the kind of guy with command, good location strategies. He would find a way to deal with declining stuff. Like, I thought things would be okay for Zach Gallen. Ryan Nelson has been a puzzle to Eno and all of us, I think, over the course of the last few years. Had some really nice runs of success. He's probably like what's gone right in the last couple of years, like a positive success story there. I know Erod's pitching well this year. That's been a mixed bag throughout his time there. Some of it comes back to this question of, is this a problem of scouting, drafting, developing? Are they not bringing quality pitching into the organization, right? Even when Strom was there for those 3 years, they were 24th in strikeout minus walk rate during his final season. They were 19th in 2023 when they made that run to the World Series, and they were 23rd in Strom's first year in 2022. So slightly better than they've been this year, but not above average. Kind of weird, right? And they've missed in free agency at a few different levels. Obviously, Corbin Burns got hurt. A lot of possible explanations, but maybe we'll go pitcher by pitcher here. I mean, Zach Gallen to me seemed like the safest of the Arizona pitchers, Trevor. Like, what do you think has gone wrong for him really over the last 2 seasons now?
Well, I can't help but notice that the precipitous drop. Now, he was declining generally in Stuff Plus. He actually has pretty steadily since 2020. He had a 106 overall Stuff Plus then. It is now an 87 this year. And I went like 102, 103, 98, 92, 93, 87. So that is he's stemmed it a little bit, but it's consistently gone down without really any major drop in like velocity or even movement profile, which tells me there is a little bit of a lack of adjustment there, but also like it's kind of fallen off a cliff since Strom left. And one of Strom's MOs, and having spoken to him too when I was a free agent trying to decide where to go before signing with the A's, like the thing he's good at is like helping guys make adjustments in the season. And finding like how can we move to throwing a different pitch or changing our sequencing or changing how we use our arsenal and things, and like making adjustments to grips, doing it very quickly. That's something he's good at, and that it seems like some of these guys are stuck in their patterns and can't really figure out a way to get out of them. And that is very, very clear to this year with Gallen, in that he had a negative 11 run value on a slider last year and then decided that he's going to throw it twice as much this year.
So yeah, unless you rebuild that pitch, that doesn't make any sense.
It's the same pitch, almost exactly same velocity, same everything. He stopped throwing his cutter. Maybe that's what he thought was the problem. Like he didn't need the microtone between the four seam because his four seam has natural cut. Like maybe he didn't need he needed the bigger separation. That was the idea, but like, so far, not so good. It's a -6 run value so far this year. And he's throwing it a lot. And, the only pitch he has that's in the zone more than 50% of the time right now is fastballs, four seams, not sinkers. And so, like, he has good command. He always has had good command. He's actually got just as good command this year as he's had at any time in his career. Actually, his location plus this year is a 110. It's the highest of his career. So that's not the problem. His stuff is the problem. Something's happening. Guys are hitting the ball really hard, even when the pitch is located well. But there was one thing after going back and watching that is a little bit concerning, and there is a little bit of telegraphing breaking pitches, and there might be a slight, maybe not a clear tip in terms of like where the team's like, hey, I got something, but it does look different when he throws his curveball and his slider than his other pitches. There's some tightening of the glove. He gets a little bit. He physically looks tighter, like he's worried about it. And it's happened recently. I watched his last 3 starts, and it's getting kind of more and more noticeable. And there are some very good swings being put on well located breaking balls underneath the zone and the bottom rail of the zone in ways that I'm sure he's not used to. And I can tell by the look on his face that he's like, I don't know what's happening. But so I think there's probably a little bit of that too. That's what happens when you start to get something in your head where things aren't working as well. Like you used to have confidence in something, and then the confidence is gone. You physically start to show that a little bit, and I think that's what's compounding some of these things. So that's maybe a less of a tangible thing, but just something that I noticed. I was like, oh wow, like that's a couple of the curveballs that he got. He was just wiggling the crap out of his glove trying to get a grip. Like it was very obvious. And they were hit very, very hard. So a lot of like the stuff's not moving as well, even though he's locating it. And some of the decisions, it just looks like he's searching. Like maybe the slider is the way. And because on paper it's not too bad of a pitch, and he's like, I can locate it, and it's different than my four seam and my curveball. The only pitch that really is getting value out of is his seam shifted changeup, which moves a lot. It's a good pitch. It's only positive run value, and it was a positive run value last year, but he didn't start throwing that more. And I just think that maybe the decision making, he looks like he's like, let's try this, let's try that, let's try this, let's try that, and he's not really confident in any of those changes. And that is something we saw that at the beginning of last year as well. That might be the Strom effect. There might be a little bit of the vacancy of Brent Strom and being like, hey, I think we should do this, because and maybe trust there.
His new pitching coach doesn't necessarily have that gravitas, right? So
maybe it's that, or maybe that's just not the way they operate. So every pitching coach has like different kind of philosophies and the kind of stuff they look at. And Strom was very like, he was willing to kind of just be like, you know what, throw all that out the window. How's this feel? Like doing stuff like that. And sometimes you bring in people who are a little bit more technical, and they're trying to stick to the guidebook that they've developed, and that those things will work. And it's just about being sticking to it and being patient. But a lot of times guys are like, okay, I understand that, but I need something now. I need something to start building confidence again now that I feel like it's going to work. And it just looks to me, after I watched like 200 pitches like in a row. And I was just like, it looks to me just by body language that is not something he's feeling right now. And those things compound, and it starts to affect the effect of your pitch and how it's moving and how much success you can get. So like I think we're just seeing a snowball effect of all of those things together. And last thing I'll say is, I know he is abundantly aware of the decline in how things are moving and the stuff. I know he feels that. I know he knows. So like you add that on top, without really being confident and being pointed in any direction to improve, that could be why this decline is happening so quickly. Not knowing anything about physically how you feel or anything, right? So the changes that he made at the end of last year, they're not showing up right now. And it's not because he's not throwing the ball where he wants to. It's because they're not missing barrels.
It's really interesting. I think that there's two things, like you've come up with two things that I might attack. There's sort of the mental aspect. And I think that the tipping almost feels like mental as rather than physical. You're talking about a tightening up and like a thinking too hard about the breaking balls, right? So in the mental thing, it also sounds like nibbling and like not knowing his post movement identity. Like he used to have more movement before the sticky stuff ban. I'm not casting aspersions or anything, but like his fastball movement has gone down. I mean,
it affected everybody.
He's a complier. He's complied with the new rules. So like, his fastball movement has not been the same since, and that has affected his identity. I would try to do two things on the identity front. One, I try to rebuild his confidence with using some statistics. That's what I've done when I've talked to players. I've usually had like, hey, do you know you're top 3 in this? Find something in it. And if I was talking to Gallen, I'd say, do you know that like you're top 10 in location plus? Like you're one of the best command artists in the game. Like you put it where you want to put it. And so I would say, hey, you never throw your fastball low. And should we throw a sinker more so you can throw a low fastball? Should we use the cutter just because you feel confident throwing it low? Or should we just throw the four seam low? Because when you throw high, it's always the four seam. And when you throw low, it's always the secondary stuff. Can we just play with that a little bit? That's courtesy Nick Pollock a little bit. He's calling for low fastballs from him. But the other thing I think of mentally is when I was taught how to meditate as a kid, they didn't expect me to be able to meditate sitting down in one place. So they taught me to say a mantra while I was doing something repetitive. And so I might explore the idea of giving Zach Gallen a mantra on the mound. Just, for me, it was a nonsense, wasn't, if the word has too much power itself, then you start thinking about what the word represents. It has to be sort of a nonsense word, like just a mantra, just a sound almost. So everyone thinks of like but like people have like different mantras. So I'd come up with something that sort of cleared his mind and allowed him not to fret about the next breaking ball or whatever, and just sort of got his mind empty on the mound. I would like to empty his mind on the mound. Fill it with confidence that he's a command artist. He's no longer going to blow it by guys. We have to put it in the right places. Let's talk about the right places we're going to put your stuff. Let's throw some low fastballs to cover your breaking balls and stuff like that. So those are the other two things. But then there's a larger thing that's true of all these guys. And you're talking about making changes on the fly. Now, there's a weird thing that happens when you look at Arizona, when you pull all the way out. They are fourth in fastball percentage, but they are second to last in cutter plus slider percentage. So, the other guys that throw as many four-seam fastballs as Arizona, Dodgers, Pirates, Twins, they throw a ton of sliders and cutters because that's what you throw off the four-seam, right? But not Arizona. They don't throw the slider and cutter. They just throw the four-seam. They are bottom when it comes to throwing sinkers. They're bottom when it comes to throwing cutters. And can you make changes like this wholesale for a whole organization during the season? Yes, because if you look at the biggest change mixes among starting pitchers in the league this year, the top 5 includes Joey Cantillo, Slade Ciccone, and Gavin Williams. And 2 of those guys did it by throwing double the sinkers they threw early in the season. The Cleveland Guardians have looked at what they were doing, and they weren't even doing that badly. And they said, let's just double sinker usage. Let's just do something completely different. And that's the kind of energy I would like to bring if I was the Arizona pitching coach. I would come in there and be like, man, can we throw some cutters and sinkers? Can we mask our fastballs? Can we do the Triforce? Can all of us try to, like, if it's a fastball count, at least be 50-50 which fastball is coming? Can we do that so that it's fastball cutter to lefties and sinker fastball to righties? Can we do that so that not everyone knows which fastball is coming? And so that's the first thing I would do, and it's something I would do. It's not the only thing I do with Ryan Nelson, but it's something I might do with every pitcher on that Arizona team, is diversify the fastball selection.
And for context, just I want to quiz all the listeners and you too. What do you think Gallen's whiff rate on his four-seam is this year?
15%.
It's 6.
6?
Ooh. 6.4%.
And he's still throwing it. He's still throwing it what? 45%?
He's throwing it 45% of the time. He's throwing it 37% of the time. Sorry, 45 was last year. That's still a lot. So he went to the slider, which is 30% whiff rate, which is only 30% whiff rate. So I know he's just like, guys miss this pitch more.
Right.
But they're also
But now they start to anticipate it. Now they start to anticipate it.
So, but his four seam and his curve need to work together. I love the freeze fastball down thing. I think the guys would be. I think that people stand there. They would have to, if he could, and he can do it, and he can do it over and over and over again. If he committed to that, and then just like flip the switch back when they started to try to go down and get it, and then you started using the curveball again off of that, maybe that's something that he needs to do. But I think it's just like I throw my fastball up, I throw my curveball down is still his thinking, and it's just not working that way right now. And so
that's why you tell him you're a command artist. Let's put him in different places.
What do you do really well? You can throw the ball wherever you want. You still can. What's the thing that you still do that hasn't changed at all? It's throwing the ball where you want. So maybe that where you want to throw it needs to change.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think they've tried to make some of these adjustments with Fott. He's in the bullpen right now, and he added a cutter in 2025. Look at the mixes from 24 to 25 to 26. Like, he did the thing that we want. He added the pitch that was missing, and it hasn't served him yet. Last year was so weird. I think Brandon Fott had some of the most extreme home road splits I've seen, non-Coors division. Like, I can't figure out if it's just the noisiest small sample size thing ever, or if giving up 2.5 homers per 9 on the road is the result of the ball feeling one way at home at Chase Field, humidor there, versus always feeling different on the road. I genuinely can't figure that out. He was 26th percentile in zone contact rate and he doesn't really induce weak contact. Like, he gives up a lot of hard contact, and he gets hit in the zone all the time. So part of this for me is like, I don't know if Fott, even with all these pitches, has good enough stuff to be in the zone as often as he is. That kind of struck me as odd. The first strike percentage actually dropped from 70.8% in 2024 to 64.3% last year. So he was getting ahead a ton when everything was working better. He's getting ahead less often now. He is getting more ground balls this year as a reliever, so I'm kind of curious if that could actually hold over, because for me, it's like, if you're going to give up hard contact when you're in the zone, got to keep it on the ground to give yourself a chance, right? That's part of how you can work around that. I mean, it's weird that the K percentage has been under 20% in the 2 years since Strom was fired. Fott's always had this problem with lefties. That's not going to go away. If you watch the home runs he gives up, you see a lot of middle third pitches. It's missing with all sorts of stuff in bad spots. So I don't know. Like, I'm intrigued by the possibility of a guy that has this many pitches ending up in a different organization, changing up where he locates some things a little bit. But I get the sense that, looking at some of the pitch location maps and everything, he's trying some of the stuff we're talking about for Gallen, and it just has not worked for him so far.
Yeah, I mean, he has a below average K-minus BB for his career against lefties. I've always pointed to that. And this year it's even worse. I mean, for his career, it's 12.7%. This year it's 7.6%. This is with the added cutter and like trying to do something more against lefties. He has a 1.6 homers per nine against lefties. Career 4.8 whip against lefties. This year 6.97. Like, oh, dude. Like, I don't know. It's the type of breaking ball too, where I'd love to say, hey man, maybe we just need to throw that your best pitch more than 15% of the time. But it is the type of breaking ball that, you're a little bit nervous throwing to lefties.
Yeah.
It's a sweeper. So
yeah.
I've seen some sweeper guys throw sweepers to opposite hands. So I wonder if it's nice that he's built this like 6-pitch arsenal, and I think that's not wasted work. But I wonder if now we can push the slider usage a little bit, and like maybe even throw some, opposite handed. Like, Trevor Rogers has had pretty good success throwing sweepers and changeups to opposite handed hitters and playing them off each other. So I wonder if there's something that Fott could learn there, trying to get lefties out.
He's a prime example of he's got good control. He doesn't have good command. So he likes to throw it in the box. It's very, very important to him. It very clearly to me is that he just doesn't want to walk people. And so he'll take chances a bit, just throw it in the box. But that makes him give up more than the hit an inning for his entire career. He just got better stuff for how hard he gets hit. And then with his curveball and his sweeper, especially this year, they're just not in the strike zone very much. But like where his clusters are, a lot of it's just in the middle third of the plate. Up and down, sure, not in the center of the zone, but like just a lot of just over the plate. And he might benefit from shaving down the pitches and getting really good at locating two of them, because he's just kind of like that for all, like his forcing fastball is just pretty much all over the place. Like and this could be he's thrown them to different lefties and righties, right? This is not divided by splits, but still, like, or even additionally, if you all of your pitches end up in the middle part of the plate, move on the rubber.
Right. And those are the kinds of adjustments I'm just not sure that they're making as a staff right now. I would love to dig even deeper into that. It seems like they're doing the thing where they're trying the same process over and over again, getting the same result, but expecting a different result, almost top to bottom on the entire staff.
Yeah, it is interesting. Another thing that Trevor said that pops for me is that every pitching coach has like their different way of looking at things. And, I had one pitcher tell me that every pitching coach has one idea. That's a rude way of putting it, but another way of putting it is I was talking to a pitching coach about whether or not guys who have high spin efficiency are naturally pronators or are naturally pronators. So the idea is, if you get 100% near 100% spin efficiency, you must be really behind the ball. when you're pitching. You must be really letting that ball come off straight off your hands. And so therefore you probably a pronator bias because, if you're supinator bias, the ball's not going to come 100% off the back and you're going to lose, you're going to create gyrospin, you're going to lose spin efficiency. But one thing that complicates that is slot. So Ryan Nelson is super high up, and it's almost hard to not be super efficient if you're using your back to just throw from right above you. Like how are you on the side of the ball from up here? You're just reaching up into the sky and throwing. You're the Iron Mike, and so there are pitchers. So this pitching coach said, I used to use spin efficiency as a proxy for supinator bias, just like you did. But I've become aware of new tools recently and new stats that we may not even have access to. He was talking about something, Trevor, called a gyro degree.
Okay.
And I don't think that I know exactly what that ports to on Savant, but he said that, when he looks at somebody like Nelson, he sees a 10 to 15%, let me get the terminology correct, 10 to 15 degree gyro range on the heater.
Okay.
And he also said that seeing cut carry, suggested a supinator bias. So he thought Ryan Nelson is a supinator. And, Ryan Nelson does throw right now. The gyro slider has been a good advancement for him. That's his best secondary that he's ever thrown is the gyro slider this year. And he throws a curveball off of that. So if we've got a guy who's actually a supinator bias, then if we know that now, that opens up other things. So what do you do with a supinator bias guy? You throw a kick change, a splitter, or there are things called cut changes. So you can throw a cut change, and basically a cut change is leveraging seam shifted wake in a way where you're still thinking cut when you throw the change up, but because of the way it comes off your hands and the seams, it still acts like a changeup. So there are people, Cade Horton, for example, was telling me when I throw my sweep, my sinker, I think cut, and it comes off like I'm still a supinator, but because of how we've arranged the seams, it takes off like a sinker. Yeah. So that's what I'd be working on with Ryan Nelson, because the gyro slider's fine. The curve is okay, but he just really needs a secondary, because as good as his four seam is, you're putting a lot of pressure on a pitch when when everyone knows that's your best pitch and you throw it all the time. So you just needs to take some pressure off that pitch. And, something that, if you look right now at his movement chart, you can see there's just nothing in the right side of the box. And if I could just drop a kick change in there, he's tried some different changes. He tried a straight change. I don't think that's the right move. I want like a power change. I want a big movement change. I would be really thinking about a kick change with him. But if not splitter, if not, then we got to leverage the seam effects to get a cut change in there. But that's what I'd be doing with Ryan Nelson, is just playing around with changeups, because I just think he needs something. Everything's on the left side of the chart here. We just need something that goes the other way.
Yeah, I mean, I think he has been able to lean into kind of the high arm angle, weird four-seamer in a way that
it keeps getting higher.
It just brought him a lot of success last year, and I worry that will like delay the next round of adjustments, or has delayed those next adjustments. He put up a 3.39 ERA and a 107 WHIP last year. Everything's great. It's working. And then he looks a lot more this year like he did in 2024, when all of those critiques you mentioned have been completely fair the entire time. It's just it's part of the arsenal that's been missing for Ryan Nelson all along. And I guess the bigger question with this entire trio is they've got Ryan Nelson through 2028. So 2 more full seasons. Obviously he's important because they just don't have enough starters right now. Gallen on the 1-year deal. Fott, they gave an extension. It's a 5-year, $45 million extension with some options at the end of it. This is year 1 of that.
What kind of options?
Those are club options in the big, like $20 million range, I want to say. So I think given
Fott's
their
back
need,
in the rotation this week.
yeah, he's coming back in the rotation. He went down to AAA. He's been stretching out. He's going to be back in the rotation because of some injuries they're dealing with right now. They have to give him a lot of chances to start, given where they're at as an organization. If it doesn't work, if they can't fix him, if you're a team that needs pitching, that's not actually that much money. And you could probably get the Diamondbacks to eat some of it. Are you trying to trade for Brandon Pfaadt because you think this is correctable?
It might be interesting. We were talking about the Marlins potentially trading for pitching, if I was an organization that was cheap and I thought we had really dialed in our pitching development, I think I might be interested.
Because you could get a lot of innings for not a lot of money, potentially. That's the best thing about Brandon Pfaadt. He's been kind of a workhorse going all the way back through his time in their minor league system.
It's nice to have a unique fastball, at your core for Nelson. So I'd definitely be trading for Nelson if I could.
Yeah.
But if I was the Diamondbacks, I'd want to keep Nelson. With Pfaadt, at least he has there is a standout pitch in there, which is the sweeper. So they've had a success in Miami with, building around Max Meyer's sweeper and like building an entire arsenal around it. So, I think I was thinking like Giants, right? But like, I don't know if the Giants feel like right now they're going to like take somebody else's pitcher and make them a lot better.
Take on more commitments if you're in that chair right now.
Yeah,
As many long-term commitments as you can. Just
good time for it.
Just keep adding those on. I guess the biggest thing with Brandon Pfaadt, I didn't mention this up top. I mean, he's averaging 93.5 on the four-seamer, and that's been working out of the bullpen this year, which is, less of a concern with the wide arsenal, but maybe also part of the reason why he gets hit so hard is that it's pretty average velocity, and it doesn't have any real deception to it. It kind of moves exactly the way you'd expect a four-seamer to move.
Padres, Niebla, they need pitching.
Yeah. I guess all of this is to say the underperformance here is going to create opportunities at various levels. It might not be at this year's trade deadline, but if you're thinking about keeper in dynasty leagues, you're thinking about what the winter might bring. Zach Gallen's going to be a free agent again. Assuming he's healthy at the end of the season, you're probably looking at him as someone you'd be excited about on a one-year deal next year if your team brought him in and was going to go ahead and try and make some adjustments. All right, fair conclusion. Glad I landed the plane.
Absolutely.
But in terms of like actual keeper assets, I think Nelson's the only one I'd really want to keep, between years. Gallen's somebody I might, pick up late in a restocking draft or something.
Right. Try to get him back cheaply. The same way some team in free agency will probably get him for less than he's making this year, barring a big turnaround here in the second half. We're going to hit one more break. When we come back, we're going to talk about left on base percentage, a stat that I've always sort of attributed to pitchers, but I think there might be a little bit more going on there. Welcome back to Rates and Barrels. Check out Starkville this Saturday. Dodgers play-by-play announcer Joe Davis joins Jason and Doug. Joe talks about how the Dodgers' league-leading offense still hasn't been firing on all cylinders yet in 2026.
I think it's the most well-rounded team that I've seen. There have been teams that were more overwhelming offensively. This team, for one reason or another, the injuries or Mookie and Tucker underperforming, even though the overall numbers say they're the best offensive team in baseball, it hasn't felt that way. It's felt, people are going to roll their eyes, but relatively disappointing offensively. I think when you look at the collection of talent, not the numbers, not the ultimate outcomes of this, but just the way it's felt hasn't quite felt right.
Check out the full interview with Joe Davis on this week's episode of Starkville that drops on Saturday. Left on base percentage. The reason I wanted to ask you guys about it is because a couple of these Diamondback pitchers actually have struggled in that particular stat. Left on base percentage, of course, is a way to measure how many runners actually come around to score. Low percentages generally are considered to be unlucky, but it's kind of like a BABIP sort of thing where it's relative to your career baseline, right? You want to look and see like what is typically happening. And the variable here that I think is important to bring to the table is defense, right? I mean, in the Fangraphs glossary, Piper Slawinski wrote that breakdown of left on base percentage. High strikeout pitchers have been shown to have some control over their left on base percentage. Pitchers that record a high number of strikeouts can pitch their way out of jams more easily than pitchers that rely upon the team's defense, so able to maintain lob percentage is higher than the league average. Also, if a pitcher isn't a major league caliber starter, or if they're a borderline case, it's likely their true talent left on base percentage is below league average, right? So a couple important contextual things there. But my thought was, if you look at left on base percentage alongside something like BABIP, maybe you could understand how that particular pitcher's defense could be part of the equation, causing them to get crushed with runners on base. So what do you guys think? Is this a reasonable take, or is this me trying to squeeze more value out of a number than it actually has?
I think that this has always been a really interesting conversation. I think when people are not just obviously it's very valuable to understand this from for a reliever standpoint, but it also from starters, like left on base percentage there's so many intangible things I think that also, like, how does your mindset change when you get in those situations this is a great way to measure that. But also, like, the idea, the idea, like when everyone was talking about the fireman role, and those guys were all strikeout guys because you need to go out there, guys second, third with one out. You need to be able to get out of that without giving up a run. And guys who strike a lot of guys out have a better chance of doing that than not. So, like, I think this is a great way to kind of put those things together, or at least the start of it. I think there's some other things you can add, but like when it comes to BABIP plus a left on base, it's are you getting unlucky, and then should you rely on that? You can make decisions based on this, what you're trying to accomplish when you get put in positions. But like the guys who are, there's always a narrative around like left on base or strand rate or whatever, and like they're going to regress to the mean. There's no reason that you should do that, especially if you are the one doing the strikeouts and you are the one kind of taking care of that. Like those guys, you go look, Craig Kimbrell's a great example of this. He's one of the best in recent history at going out and just striking his way out of innings. Same with like Edwin Diaz. Like those guys are, sure, there's a guy in first and second almost every inning lately, but you can punch out the side to get out of it, and you go look, year in and year out, they're one of the best in the league at doing it. You add that to their BABIP, and if they're having a bad year or a good year, usually the BABIP can be isolated as the culprit, and it's not the left on base. So I always see it kind of that way when I'm trying to think about relievers, and obviously one of my life's goals is to figure out how to value relievers that aren't closers effectively. But even from starters, like your ability to go and do those things. I think BABIP affects starters even more because they just give up way more balls in play in general. Like if you are able, it's so important to be able to, you give up 4 runs in the first 3 innings, to be able to get out of another situation so you can go throw 2 more zeros, like this inflection point, that's directly related to left on base. Usually it's like you get in another tight situation. If you're able to get back on the horse, get out of that, and then go out and have some clean innings, those are the best starters. The best starters do that, and they do that regularly. And I think this also points at who is going to be able to do those things as well. So I love connecting them, or at least when you're looking at one, the other one can also help you provide more context for whatever it is you're looking for. And I think that these are things, just like I think we mentioned last week, if I remember correctly, and maybe I'm completely talking out left field here, and none of the listeners are going to know what I'm talking about because we only talked about it in the meeting before.
Yeah.
But with inherited runners versus bequeathed runners versus inherited runners scored versus stranded, like another thing that just is not paid attention to at a level that it should be, to determine whether or not somebody is doing a good job at that specific role or not. I would put this left on base percentage as kind of one of those categories, because if you consistently have a high one, there's something going on there that doesn't really show up much in any other statistics.
Yeah, I mean, the highest left on base percentages are all relievers. So I think within reason, you can kind of maybe not look at it that much for relievers. I mean, it's their job to leave the people on base, like Trevor always is pointing out. So, I am looking at basically Hall of Famers, but I just looked at left on base percentage, 750 career minimum. Billy Wagner, 82%. Mariano Rivera, 80%. Armando Benitez, 80%. Francisco Rodriguez, 80%. Kenley Jansen, 80%. All have really high K rates, so that's a big way to do it, except for Mariano, of course. But, I also wanted to say within reason. So, like, if somebody has like a 90 or an 85, like, remember that even the Hall of Famers weren't able to keep much better than an 80%. That seems to be the high end. But the biggest starters, DeGrom, 80%, Clayton Kershaw, 79%. Again, big strikeout rates relative to history. Brand Woodruff is up there. So there's a command aspect to it, and two maybe, but Blake Snell, Max Scherzer, Shane Bieber. So you can run these big numbers. And it is also interesting that a lot of the players, other than Kershaw, a lot of the starters have been on different teams. So you can't always say there's a great link to defense. I did run the numbers and just took the last 3 years of pitchers more than 70 innings, and link the pitcher's left on base percentage to the team OAA over the last 3 years. And there is a relationship. The p-value is really low, suggesting that it's not by chance, but the relationship is really weak. The R is 0.14, which is to say that you're describing what is it? The variance. You're describing about 2% of the variance. So you're basically saying outs above average describes 2% of the variance in left on base percentage. So outs above average tells you 2% of what's going on in left on base percentage. So it's a very weak one. And I think that has to do with, people don't play the same defense behind you. You could have the same defense behind you, but you don't get the same defensive. You sometimes don't even get the same defensive players, even though there's a team defense. There are times like there are guys who have their own catcher, right? Pitchers who have their own catcher. So they're not getting the same defense as everybody else because they kind of have their own catcher, right? There are times when, like, if DeGrom's on the mound, you put you put the bad outfielders out there, or you put the bad infielders in there because he never gets ground. Whatever it is, like there are defensive arrangements that are unique to every pitcher, and then there's just they'll play one way against one guy, defensively one day, and they'll play another way defensively another day. So there's just too much noise, I think, in defensive numbers to look at a left on base percentage and say, well, he's pitching in front of a good defense, so I'm going to believe it. So I tend to just sort of go more where the stats go in terms of if you have a large left on base percentage, it's probably going to regress unless you happen to be a Hall of Famer, and that's hard to know in year 3.
Yeah, I'm still just looking at the Gallen example, and as his K rate has come down each of the last 2 seasons, that's when the left on base percentage has gotten a lot worse, right? It seems like it's much more strongly tied to his inability to miss bats right now than it is to the Diamondbacks defense. But I think if you look at it from a team perspective, it's a weird team leaderboard to look at. I think when I pulled it up pre-show, I went 2024 to 2026 and just sorted that way to see if there was a multi-year trend. And the Rockies bottom 67%, Nats 68.8, Marlins 69.3, Twins 69.6, and Diamondbacks 69.9.
There's some bad bullpens there. I wonder if there's also a bad bullpen will affect your left on base percentage because you leave some guys on when you leave, and then they're bad teammates, as Trevor says.
Right. You got bad teammates. I mean, there could also be these last couple of seasons with the new disengagement rules, stolen bases changing. Like, guys are getting into scoring position more often against you because you don't control the run game. That could be working against you a little bit too. I don't know. I feel like there's a little more going on here than I have given it credit for in the past. At the top of the list, by the way, last 3 seasons, team left on base percentage: Brewers 1, Guardians 2, Padres 3, Braves 4, Astros 5, Cubs also tied for 5th up there as well.
4 of the best bullpens.
Yep. So from a team perspective, bullpen quality is going to
I think that's
push you in one direction or the other. But your rotation's a huge part of that too. They're chewing up a good chunk of those innings.
Yeah, that's true. And there are some good defenses on there. I mean, at least the Cubs are, the Cubs stand out. But if you look at even in a given season, for a Cubs season, you'll see some left on base percentages for the Cubs that are, in front of good defenses that are good, and you'll see some that are bad. So that's why. That's why it's hard to translate those team stats over to, a unique player.
Excellent. All right. Trevor, can your camera handle a name that dude?
Yeah, it just keeps overheating, so be quick. I don't know what that means. I've never seen that before.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to use a random baseball card, and I'm going to use only the clues on the card to try to see if you can identify today's mystery player. I'll give you guys individual clues. After each clue, you can make one guess. We'll see who can identify the player first. Today's player, born March 25th, 1966. I'll give you a related hint. He's not active. I'm going to read the contents of the back of the card if you don't have any guesses here.
Oh, I'm just going to, why not? Why not use a guess? Eric Davis.
Eric Davis. Fun guess. No, not Eric Davis.
Trevor? Be, 60 years old?
Yep.
66.
You're thinking too hard about it.
Those guys are too young or too old. Jack Morris.
It is not Jack Morris. I think
old.
Jack Morris is older than that.
He is older. He's about 10 years older than that.
Here's the blurb on the back of this card. Blank is one of the few pitchers in recent baseball history to win 20 games in 3 consecutive seasons. Leading the league with 22 wins, he remains the ace of a very talented blank staff. I don't want to give up the team just yet.
Big Maddox.
It's not Maddox.
Dwight Gooden.
It's not Gooden. I'll continue. He led the league in complete games pitched in 1991 with 9 and has continued to pitch effectively each year since. Blank led the league with 5 shutouts in 1992.
Kevin Appier.
It's not Kevin Appier.
David Cohn.
It's not David Cohn,
That's
but
a good one.
we have circled the correct era for sure. You're honing in on it. Height 6'1", weight 190, bats left, throws left. Stats here are from 1993. Here's the stat line. 239 in the third innings. I mentioned the 22 wins before. 120 Ks, 90 walks, 3.20 ERA.
Tom Glavine.
It is Tom Glavine. Correct.
Oh, but did they say he was the ace?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I was
they're
not
wrong.
gonna. Oh, come on!
I'm just reading what it says on the back of this card, which came out of
I'll
a.
say Frank Viola, dude.
Look at this beautiful card.
I literally think unanimously, if you ask any baseball fan anywhere, they would say he's 3.
Yeah,
everybody.
I mean, that's
you just said 120 Ks in 240 innings, bro.
Yeah, I grew up in that era. It was definitely 3 for me, dude.
He's great. He's great.
It's the post-1994 collection, 30-card set. I happened to find that this weekend.
He's great. Was Mark Mulder the ace? No.
Yeah, I'd like to lodge a complaint.
Trevor's awfully mad about this for someone who just won a game of Name That Dude.
Well, it's Name That Dude. Of course I won. Okay, I'm getting cocky. Sorry.
Ito got Jed last week, so Ito's feeling pretty good, I think, too. But we need to go. Reminder, you can join our Discord with the link in the show description. No episode from us tomorrow, but Dodgers announcer Joe Davis is the guest on Starkville. That episode will drop on Saturday. That's going to do it for this episode of Rates and Barrels. Ito and I are back with you on Monday.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to hit that subscribe or follow button so you never miss an episode. If you enjoyed it, drop us a like, leave a rating, or sound off in the comments. We'll see you next time.